Hello, and welcome to the first in our series of Owl About Rice parent webinars. My name is David Humphrey, and I'm the Assistant Director of Parents and Families Programming here at Rice. While I'm joining you from Rice's campus here in Houston, we know that the Rice family reaches far and wide, and so we're excited to be able to connect with each of you virtually through this webinar and provide resources to help your students throughout the duration of this series. Today, I am joined by some of our rock star parents, Stacy DeArmas, Amy Spiro, and Michelle Thompson, who are experienced not only as Rice parents, but also as the moderators of our Rice Parent to Parent Network Facebook page. They each have a wealth of knowledge to share, and I'm excited for us all to learn from them today. So I'll pass it over to each of them to briefly introduce themselves, their owls, and their favorite part of being a Rice parent. Stacy, how about you kick us off?
Sure. Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity, David. Hi, everyone. My name is Stacy DeAdmas, and I have the privilege with Michelle and Amy of being your parent Facebook page moderators. We're happy to be a resource for you there and answer the questions we know the answers to, but also provide a forum for other parents to share as well. I have two owls. I have a rising, or I guess now not rising, a senior owl, and I have a sophomore owl. Both of my owls are in McMurtry College. My senior owl is pre-health, and so I'm happy to answer any questions about pre-health tracks. And you'll notice I often share information about OpenFile. My younger owl is a humanities major, art and Spanish, and something else in there. I think art history. And my favorite thing about Rice, I guess, there are so many things I love about Rice, but the thing I love the most is there really is something for everyone. Having two students, one that is very health and science driven and one that is humanities and art driven, there are things that I have come to learn about Rice now that my older science student will say, wow, I didn't even know we had that at Rice. And my younger student is, doing those humanities things and vice versa. So I really do love, of course, the community, but the fact that Rice has something for every student. That's it. Turn it back to you, David.
Excellent. Thank you, Stacy. Amy, you are up next for your introduction.
Hi, my name is Amy Spiro. I live in Austin, so I'm a short drive away from Rice. I have a daughter who's a senior, and she started at Rice College and is now at Duncan College. She's a philosophy and creative writing major, and she's getting a minor in politics, law, and social thought. And I think she just found out she can get a French minor too. And she is active with Rice Dance Theater, and she's the general manager of Chouse, which is the Rice coffee shop. I guess my favorite, one of the things I like about Rice is that it's close to Austin, but I also like the fact that there's a lot of fellowships and opportunities for students to get extra money and funding from the school, whether it be to do study abroad or a research project. And there's just a lot of hidden treasures, I think, like that.
All right. Thank you, Amy. And last but not least, Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your owl?
Sure. I'll say good morning for those of us on Pacific time. My name is Michelle Thompson. I'm from Tucson, Arizona. Technically not on Pacific, but we don't change time here. I have a senior owl who is in Duncan College, and he's double majoring in computer science and statistics, with I think one minor in data science. There might be another one, or at least one I can't pronounce. But in any event, I think the one thing that really stands out in my mind, what I like about Rice, is it really has it's a small, tight-knit community, which is great, but at the same time also has the resources of a much larger community. And I think those two things combined really make Rice special.
All right. Fabulous. Well, thank you again, all three of you, for being here today. Before we get to the questions, we do actually want to hear a bit from our parent audience. We currently have 151 attendees watching along today. So we would love to hear from you all. I'm about to launch a poll in Zoom. I believe it is just launched. Three quick questions for you all to answer, telling us where you're coming from location-wise, what year your owl or owls are in, and then what college your owl or owls are in. So I'll give y'all a little bit of time to answer those questions. While we wait, I also wanted to introduce my colleague Shannon Burnett, who is our Director of Parent and Volunteer Engagement. Today, she is helping us manage the Q&A function of this Zoom webinar. So we're grateful to those of you who submitted some questions ahead of the event. But if any of you in the room today have some new questions to submit, you can do so through the Q&A function, and we will do our best to get to it. If we don't get to a question that you asked today, the Parent to Parent Facebook network, which we've shared, is a great place for you to go for any of those additional questions. And then since our panelists today will be focusing primarily on the parent experience and how you as a parent can support your owls, if you have a specific question about a Rice office, a specific program, or specific policy, we may not necessarily get to that today, but you can always send questions to our office by emailing parents@rice.edu. And myself and Shannon are on the team that manages that inbox, so we will connect with you and make sure that those questions can be answered. Finally, the recording of this webinar will be made available in the coming weeks on our parents.rice.edu website. So if you're unable to stay for the full hour, you will be able to view the recording afterwards. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out those Zoom results. Let me get our poll pulled back up here. All right. Currently, our poll is showing that 13% of our respondees today are calling in from Houston. Welcome, H-Town, hold it down. 17% are from the state of Texas outside of Houston. A whopping 58% are outside of Texas in the US. That's 82 of our folks here in chat today. And then 18 out of our 143 attendees are from outside of the US. So thank you all for sharing that. That gives us a good frame of reference. 81% of those in the call today are first-year parents. Welcome to the Rice community. Go Owls. We're glad to have you guys here. We've got 14% second year, then 5% third year, fourth year, or above. Really good cross-section of the college results. I won't read through all of it, but it does appear that our leading college is Jones College, Mary Gibbs Jones. So thank you to all of you for responding that. Let me see. I'll share the results here just so that you all can view that and look over it as well. But again, wherever y'all are coming from, we're glad that you are here and are excited to get into our first few questions. So to start off, we got a lot of questions from parents regarding communication with your owls. What's kind of a natural level of communication? So I would love to hear from maybe each of our moderators. How frequently do you speak with your owl? Has that shifted over time? For instance, from the beginning of their freshman year to now them being a senior? Do you have any tips for staying connected with your students?
I'll start. Oh, sorry, Amy.
There you go.
I'll start. So I think it really depends on obviously your relationship, right, with your owl before he or she comes to school. I will say I also have a freshman at a different university who, so I can share both those experiences in terms of communication level. I will say with my owl, probably only, Sunday is our phone call time that we set up. And occasionally we'll text back and forth about, I might send pictures of pets, which I found is the key to getting your child to respond. So not obviously as frequently as I'd like, but he's very busy. He's in the library till 1 a.m. And obviously there's a time zone difference. I will say that my other child, and this is not specific to Rice, every day I talk to her. So it really just kind of depends, I think, on your relationship with your owl. But if you're looking for more communication, I do think obviously pets, sending money, gifts, cards, those are what prompt, I think, on a personal level, you to hear from your owl. But I don't take it as an insult because I know they're busy and there's a lot of studying involved. So in any event, that's my experience.
I can go if you want. So for me and my daughter, and we were very, 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 very close. She's my only child and we're just very close. Freshman year was difficult because I never heard from her, especially the first semester. And it was a point of contention, and I would take it personally and get all grumpy. And that has shifted dramatically. Like, she'd still text me, but she wouldn't call. We'd say, okay, you're going to call this day. She wouldn't. So, and then I learned this is totally normal. And because she was trying to figure out life on her own, which is very important, apparently. And then by, I'd say last year, she'd call me like 3 or 4 times a day. And I would never call her, but she'd start calling me if she's walking to campus, and, oh, mom, I'm walking to campus. And then, and so now at senior year, I've been pretty busy with other stuff, and she's been really busy. We maybe talk on the phone like once a week or so, but we still text pretty much every day. But I think the big takeaway is freshman year, especially the first semester, you just need to give them space, as hard as it is, and not take it personally, because you just need to pretend like you are so busy, you don't have time to talk to them, and they'll come back to you somehow. Or that someone else suggested is change the Amazon password and for Prime, and then they will text you as well. But yeah, that's my experience. But they come around. Someone told me that, and they really do.
So I'll share my experience. I have and not that gender would make a difference, but I have a male owl and a female owl. And so for me, I've noticed a lot of difference between the two of them. But I will first say, one of the things that helps me, and I've posted this on the Facebook page, is having a hook. It's worked for me. So the way I get a hook is I follow the Rice pages for stuff like, oh, they're giving away free t-shirts at the game. Hey, did you know there's a pep rally on Friday in the quad? And while the kids know some of that, it gives me a hook to say, like, did you go? Or, or hey, did you know that at the Moody Fest is coming? You guys should get organized. Like, I like knowing what's happening on campus, because it gives me a hook to talk to my kids about. Not that I need one, but it also is more engaging for them. I listen to them about, who's in their classes. I mean, I pay attention so that I can follow back up and say, like, oh my gosh, what happened after the Texas party? Like, I heard the da-da-da or whatever. So for me, it has been actually me being flexible and bending into their lives rather than expecting them, to do that for me. That's worked for my kids. I have noticed also about classes and all of that stuff. I've also knowing their schedule is helpful. So then you can know, if they have, and again, this may be too much. I'm sure there are some parents that are like, that's way too much. This is what's worked for me. So I know if my daughter has something coming up, I want to ask about it. How was class? How was your test? Oh my gosh, da da da, whatever. And then I will say it's been different from my son than my daughter. My daughter is, she's calling me like Amy, like her Mamie's daughter. Many times I'm hearing from her. I know all the details. For my son, it's a little bit different. But I also have spent time on campus getting to know who their friends are and what's up. And that has helped a little bit with conversations, with hearing back from my son. I will say I heard from him a lot more in his younger years than I do now as a senior. And it makes me a little sad, but I do my very best to stay involved.
Oh, can I just say one thing just as a tip? If you haven't already, it's helpful to get your students' roommates' phone number, and also maybe 1 or 2 of the parents, like in their suite. There are a couple times where, my daughter left her phone in the room, or I just couldn't get a hold of her. It actually only happened once freshman year, but because she's always very responsive. So like, if you can't get a hold of your kid and you start getting a little antsy, you can text their roommate and just be like, hey, have you heard from Alyssa? Is she okay? Or something. Just gave the name out. Whoops. But anyway, so that's just a parent tip. And many of you have probably done that, but it was also, especially freshman year, like having the suite mates, the parents, because if the parent was going to be in town, you'd be like, hey, I'm in town. Does your kid need anything at Target? And they would bring if you needed something. Or when my daughter got sick, one of the moms was in town and brought my daughter all sorts of stuff. So that's kind of helpful to have that information.
That's a good point, Amy. I have used that, and I do not recommend this, but unfortunately I'm sending someone for a wellness check, like as a last resort text. And then all of a sudden the texts and pictures are flying in. So, and by the way, if you ever need to do that and you don't have another parent or a student, you can always call the residential college or your magister. You can email them and they will happily do, not to make light of that, but they will do a wellness check if you feel like your child's needs it. And you should not feel embarrassed or shy, to have someone put some eyes on your owl if you are concerned. You absolutely should not feel shy or even really threatened. It's not a big deal. They love to do it. They can just do a check-in.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you all for sharing that experience. I think it is interesting to hear that, it can wax and wane. I mean, like with any relationship, with any person, there's no one or natural answer to like when the communication is at its highest peak or lowest peak. So thank you all for sharing that. While we're on the subject of some of these tips and tricks, do you guys have some specific pieces of advice to give to new Rice parents who are navigating the transition to college life, especially those feeling anxious or unsure with their student being away from them for possibly the first extended time?
Can I start? I can start with that one. I mean, I guess my advice, and I've put this on the parents page too, is there's lots of different opinions and advice about sending our kids to school and whether or not there should be sort of this new life and break. And, I think the times have changed, and I think stakes are very high now, especially with mental health. And we understand more now. I think more than perhaps when we were younger, and it was different then. Your parents dropped you off and you didn't see them for a few months. Things are different now, and I think we have to understand that. So in my opinion and in my experience only, if you sense your owl needs you, or that, October families weekend, October 3rd, 4th, and I'm sorry if I don't have the date right, David, you can correct me.
You did get it right.
Too long? Okay. Then there is absolutely no reason, if you feel your student needs you, that you shouldn't drop in, and if you have the resources to do so, for like a weekend visit, and your owl wants you to. I'm not saying just descend on campus, but there is, that there's often discussion about our kids sort of white knuckling it through the difficulty of the separation. I'm not sure why we do that anymore. I will say my younger owl's first year, I just got the memory. I actually did visit over Labor Day weekend, and we had just moved him in August, and I was like, we're going to come and say hi. And I needed it, and my owl did then too. And then things kind of went to normal. But if you sense your owl needs you, I don't think you should, you'll know what's best. But I don't think you should just descend. But if there's that sense, of course, you have wellness checks and you can work with the magister, but you should feel comfortable to have that be a bit of a slower separation. If you want your owl to come home, if your owl says they want to come home for a weekend, do it. It's not going to change the outcomes. They're not going to not graduate from Rice and need like full-time someone to be with them, or in the beginning it can be a tough transition. So I would say do what your heart thinks is best and balance that with what your owl needs.
I think the tip I would give is just really to trust your owl. I mean, your student made it into Rice University. They are incredibly smart and motivated and have done amazing things, and they're going to do great. And I really think it's important to let them have their independence. And it's funny because now that I also have a freshman in college who I'm used to communicating with a lot more than my older one, I, like Amy, was initially feeling a little bit, oh, they're not calling me as much. And my two kids talk to each other, and my oldest told me, Mom, let her breathe. She's got this. She'll call you once a week. She's okay. And it was funny to hear that from my senior owl, which is probably what he wanted me to do way back when. And so I really think it's so important for them to try and have their independence. And so I tried really hard to exercise restraint and not become the overbearing parent, as I know, a lot of us want to be and want to know everything at every moment because you're used to that. But they've got this. So.
Yeah, I would say, freshman year, we live in Austin. So for us, it's very easy if we wanted to go visit or if she wanted to come home, but we intentionally we didn't go to family weekend. She didn't come home until the first break in October. So it was like 6 to 7 weeks. And that was like an intentional decision that, of course, unless she was like desperate and wanted us to come, visit, we would do it. But like, we wanted to give her 6 to 7 weeks to just completely do her own thing. It's easier for us to say that because we knew we could jump into a car. But I agree with Stacy. You just have to follow your instinct and don't be embarrassed, and your kid won't be embarrassed. No one even has to know that you came. They could just meet you at the hotel and you take them out to dinner. It's just, you just do what's good for them. Don't worry about what other people think. There's no right way to do any of this.
All right, fabulous. Thank you all for the insights there. We had a parent ask ahead of time, specifically about club sports and what the expectations are for students participating in intensive extracurriculars, including when it comes to heavy study periods and balancing Rice's high academic workload. So I want to see if any of you can speak to the experiences of your student handling an intensive extracurricular activity, and then also what the expectations may look like from their organizations with regards to Rice's academic rigor.
I can speak to intramural, which isn't quite club, but it's I can give an example there. So my freshman owl or my senior owl played intramurals and found really that it was in so many ways it was so rewarding, and ended up being a referee, by the way, for the rec, which is I just posted on the parents Facebook page. They're hiring for your owl if they need some extra hours. But they don't, it's not as rigorous as club. But I do think there were so many hidden rewards in doing intramurals. They went on to win McMurtry's first ever freshman flag football little championship, which was very exciting. But he made a lot of friends, and the residential college came to watch. So it was great. It was a time commitment. But because it's club, it's not club, it's intramural, because it was intramural or the residential college team, it was very easy for him to pause if he needed to take time to study and to not go. It's a large enough team to do so. Club is a little bit different. I acknowledge that. And I don't have club personal experience, but what I will say is, they can build their own schedules. And I can't imagine any scenario where they would not be able where they would elect to study, for example, elect to go to a game, for example, over studying. Our primary responsibility there is school. And in my experience with intramural, which is student run, so a little bit different, it worked out really beautifully and had a bunch of wonderful benefits.
All right, excellent. Amy, I know you mentioned that your daughter works with the dance program or has participated in that. Can you speak to kind of what the structure looks like there and how to balance?
So it's called Rice Dance Theater. I think for dancers, there's like two primary opportunities. One is to do the football thing where you're like, I don't know, I think it's called the Rice Dance Team. That's a big commitment from what I understand. You have to go to basketball games, football games, all that kind of stuff. So she's not doing that. But she's doing Rice Dance Theater, and the commitment there, I believe, are two lessons per week. So they actually bring in professional dancers from the Houston area to teach different types of dance, which she really, really loves, like everything from like ballet, hip hop, like all sorts of dance. And then once they do a showcase every semester. And so before the showcase, you have rehearsals for choreography, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week. And then right before the event, there's, a tech week, which is pretty intense. That being said, it's not a huge commitment, especially because you get to choose how many numbers you're in. If you only want to be in 2 numbers, you don't have to rehearse as much. And like last semester was her first semester as the GM at Chouse. And so she decided to take the semester off RDT, and it was not an issue at all. Like no one cared. She just was like, I can't do this plus everything else. And now she's back in it. So for dancers, that's a really great flexible thing. I think if you're like an officer, maybe you have bigger time commitments, but that's the only experience that we have with any kind of sporty thing. So.
Yeah.
All right, got it.
To add to that, other than what's the adage? If you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, right? So time management is an important skill, and obviously depends on majors and classes, but my view is academics always comes first, but it seems like they're able to balance out their studying and schedules with their other activities.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, Michelle, to your point, this is why our kids are at Rice. Part of it, or in college. Part of it, of course, they're there to figure out their career and get all the prereqs and drive toward that goal, but they're also there to learn how to be, how to grow up. And part of that is figuring out your schedule and deciding, okay, maybe I can't do 10 clubs, intramurals, and be on the radio station. Like, that's part of what we want. I had this conversation with my younger owl just earlier this week about, I said, it's supposed to be hard. If college isn't hard, I mean, difficult and challenging maybe is the better word, then we're not doing something right. You're supposed to be challenged and grow. And part of that is time management.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for sharing about those extracurricular experiences that your students have. On the note of academic rigor and success, we know that Rice has a number of resources to help students with their coursework. Wanted to know from you guys if you have any stories or examples of times that your students have used and benefited from academic resources like office hours, tutoring, or other support offices.
Well, you mentioned office hours, and I think that is so important. And no matter what their major is introduce themselves to their professors, get to know them. They have lots of opportunities and they will help you. And so that is my only experience. I really don't get into the nitty gritty with my owl in terms of what they're doing in terms of, how they're studying. But I do know that my student regularly visits professors in office hours or reaches out when he needs assistance. And I think that's really the key for any student at any university.
Yeah, I could say that definitely office hours. I know that especially for professors that my daughter really likes, like she just goes to like shoot the breeze too. She's like, this person's brilliant. I'm going to go there if no one else is there. And I'll just sit there for 30 minutes and talk about books. Like she'll just talk about books with professors. She struggled a bit in French, I think freshman year. So Rice kind of connected her with a tutor that helped. And then she also took math logic probably well before she should have. And the philosophy department or maybe the philosophy teacher helped connect her with like a graduate student in computer science who like helped her with math logic. So like there's definitely, you just have to ask for the help. And sometimes they can tell like, oh God, that person needs help. Like she needed help in French. And they proactively suggested that she have a tutor. And that was really helpful. So
I'll add student success initiatives, which I just posted some information on the Facebook page recently, has so many resources for Rice. And I think Amy said it in her opening that she said there's just so many benefits, financial, like support, tutoring that Rice has that are these hidden nuggets. SSI is a great one. The other one I love is AOP, which is Access and Opportunity Portal. If your student needs help with resources, and for example, if they're a financial aid student, there's opportunities to support certain materials that they need for classes, and Rice will help you. It's an application process, and they make a selection. But AOP is available. There's SSI, and then another one is the Disability Resource Center is another great option. So if your student maybe had accommodations in in high school and you want to learn, or you want your student to figure out how to figure that out in college, send them there and have them learn more there. To Amy's point, also office hours and Michelle's office hours are great. That's also how you get to learn and get close with your professor for potentially a TA position, which is also really cool. You can take that for credit or for pay sometimes. And those are not as difficult to come by as I think they are in other larger universities. You have a good relationship with your professor, you perform well in class, they need a TA, you email them and ask them if there's a position available. They might already have somebody lined up, but maybe another semester. And those are ways that there's so many, there's so much value to those positions, whether you do them for paid or for credit. They obviously look great on your, in anything you're doing after Rice. But it's also a really great way to get intimate with a topic and to get to know a professor better. And that can only benefit your student.
All right, thank you. A number of our parents have asked about student breaks and how much downtime or family time you can expect from your owls over a time like the short Thanksgiving break or even longer after like the summer break when they may have their own academic or pre-professional plans. for the summer. So any tips from you for parents on how to navigate each of these times?
I think that for a freshman year, you should set your expectations very, very low and kind of expect that when they come home, they might be a little bit obnoxious and that they're going to want to sleep a lot and they're going to want to be with their friends a lot and they're going to want to show how grown up they are. And you just kind of give them space and let them get it all out of their system, because eventually they'll come back to being like the person that you knew before. That's my experience. Again, with breaks, it's easy for us because we're close by. We can either pick her up or she hops on a bus. I know it's harder for students who are out of town because you have to decide, is it worth, saving a lot of money by leaving on Tuesday instead of Wednesday? But in terms of like when they are home, they are going to need to sleep a lot and they're going to want to be with their friends a lot. I mean, not every student's the same, but that was my experience. And now when my daughter's home, she hardly leaves the house. Like she just like likes to be home all the time and in her room or go to yoga. And she's not as worried about like socializing with her high school friends. So it's just, there's a big arc that, the kids go through.
I'd agree with that. The smaller break, I think we just had one. I don't even know anymore. My kids don't come home anymore, but freshman year, there was a little break at the beginning of the year. Oh, maybe it's the one we just had. I don't even know anymore because they don't come home. But freshman year, my owl came home for that short weekend. Or no, maybe I went there. Y'all, the point being, not anymore. On the shorter breaks now, the kids sometimes want to stay. If it's just a couple of days off, they want to stay with they may ask, your owl may ask you, hey, I'm going to stay at campus. We're all going to stay here. Or I'm going to go to a friend's house. We're from California. So they might want to go to a friend's house in Austin or do something like that. And so I think what you start with and what you end up with now, I don't really often know when I'm going to see my senior owl. He might want to hang out with friends over spring break or go somewhere for the first 2 weeks of summer or stay at Rice over the summer. But to Amy's point, it's gonna change. And when they are home though, it's just like food and rest and money. I'm like excited to get them back to Rice at the end of a long break.
So I guess I'm going to speak a little bit about breaks and travel for those of you who have out-of-state kids, because we're from Arizona and having a senior owl, we've had to navigate, right? Booking travel, having them come home. When should I book travel? That type of thing. My owl has never come home for the fall break, which is the 4-day weekend. For whatever reason, he's busy. He's usually midterms. This particular year, he and my husband are flying somewhere for a trip. He's never come home for, I guess they call it spring. They don't call it spring break. There's a 4-day weekend.
Spring recess.
There you go.
Is it spring recess? Okay.
Okay. He's never done that. Sometimes that falls over Super Bowl weekend. But he's always come home for Thanksgiving and the winter break and spring break. And so what I do is, obviously we all know, right, that it's better to book flights early. In fact, I think as of June or July, I booked all the flights up through January already and Southwest. You can use whatever airline you like. But the reason I like Southwest is I'm able to pick the last day of finals, because I don't know when his finals are going to be. They don't know until I think maybe later in October. So I pick the last day. And then when he finds out when his finals are, at least on that airline, I'm able to change it, or at least get the credit and rebook it on a different day. And sometimes it works out financially and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'll say to my kid, you know what, if I move it the day earlier, it's going to be $300 extra. And my kid says, never mind, I'll just hang out for a day. So that's how we do it. And ironically, even just last night, I booked a flight Tuesday evening, right before Thanksgiving. This was the last day of class before Thanksgiving, is Tuesday, for him to come home. And I happened to say, oh, when's your last class on Tuesday? Well, it's at 5 p.m. Well, suddenly the 4:55 flight is not going to work. So actually, ironically, just last night, I rebooked that to Wednesday. I only had to pay $10 more. So it's just this constant juggle. It's not perfect, but that's how we manage to do it. So it's kind of a corollary to breaks, but I think it's important for parents to know, obviously booking early is best. And then you just kind of wing it and hope it works out. Yeah. And if not, your kid might not come home the day earlier that they want to, and that's okay.
I fully second everything you said. As a parent from California, tickets have opened so hard, and booking early is almost impossible because of things move. But by now, our owls should have their syllabus, so they have a better idea of when their finals will be. So I actually just asked my daughter the same thing. And Amy, I'm sorry, Michelle, to your point, we had that same situation last year, and it was like $400 to change it. And I was like, I guess you're gonna stay and do
Yep.
laundry for a day because you're not coming home for $400, you know. And then she came home at the pre-scheduled day. So I second everything you said. You're right.
All right, thank you all. Our next question, as parents of seniors, you've each experienced your students living off campus for a portion of their time at Rice. Can you tell us a bit about when students typically learn that they will be living off campus for a year? How soon they should work to secure their off-campus housing, if there's specific places that off-campus students will typically gravitate towards for that housing option?
I will start off. So my son's freshman year, he told me, I want to say it was March, early March, that he was not going to be living on campus the next year because he was jacked off, is what they write. You get jacked or kicked off. Is that what they call it? It's the room jack or something. But each college is a little bit different in terms of how they handle their room jack. And I learned each college has individual bylaws as to how they handle that. And so we were actually able to look at the bylaws. My son was able to access a copy to sort of figure out what is the process. I'm not sure it was specific in terms of time. He knew what the timing was. So that was early March, and I about had a heart attack because, you know, my freshman at the time, who was still 18, was not going to be living on campus. So I actually flew out there with another group of parents who all of our kids wanted a room together, and we found a off-campus house that was available to rent. We actually also got the assistance of an agent, a real estate agent who dealt with, you know, apartments, who helped a little bit. But Duncan, at least from that experience, I think was much later in the process than most of the other colleges. But we were able to find something. Again, this was like at that point, late March, and it worked out great. He was fine. And he had his experience living off campus, and then he's been back on campus the last 2 years. And so, you know, in my experience, it does tend to work out. There are a lot of places to live off campus. I can't speak to what availability would have been if it had been January versus March. I can only speak to our experience, but.
I can, go ahead.
Heidi.
You want to go? Okay, I'll go real quick. So my daughter started at Weiss, and some of the colleges, you know, going in that you're not going to get housing sophomore year. Like almost no one gets housing sophomore year. So she started looking relatively early because I was like, where are you going to live? Where are you going to live? And a lot of students, there's just, besides houses, which I think take a lot of effort probably to find one, there is a lot of complexes that have been built specifically for with Rice students in mind. There's the Nest on Dryden, there's Life Tower, there's Latitude. Latitude's not just for students, and that's for a lot of the kids who live on that side of campus tend to live in those buildings. I can tell you with like the Nest, you do have to start early. I think she signed her lease in January. And so she liked it there so much, she stayed off campus 2 years and really enjoyed living off campus. Like, I know it's like, as a parent, you're kind of freaked out, especially if you have a freshman and they're already talking about signing a lease for next year. And it's stressful, especially because you have to your kid has to figure out who they want to live with, and they just got there. And so they also have to find a roommate. But there are places like the Nest and Life Tower where even if you don't have a roommate, they'll put you with other people. So I think like trying to not panic. And now the Nest also has new ones on the other side of campus. So there's a lot of housing available. I just would say start early, and you'll be surprised that your students might really, really like it because they learn a lot of independence. They get to cook for themselves, shop for themselves. It's just I'm really glad that she did it. I think if she had stayed on campus, and there are some kids who stay on campus all 4 years, nothing wrong with that. But to experience being on your own off campus is a good thing. One thing to keep in mind, certain complexes are on the Rice shuttle. So if you're concerned about how your kid's going to get home at night and you don't want them to be Ubering all the time, there are certain complexes that are on the Rice University shuttle system so that your child or your student can get home safely through the OWL escort. That's a really great resource that the university has. It runs from like, I think 10 at night to 3 in the morning. And the drivers are super nice. Like my daughter got to be friends with the driver. And if she had to be on campus until 1 in the morning, she'd get a ride home right in front of her apartment. And it was great. So that's something to keep in mind.
I'll add that a little bit about housing because it is super stressful. I want to acknowledge. I remember my owl telling me this when my first owl. I did not stress about it after because I knew how it worked, but I was super stressed. Oh my gosh, we're not going to get a room sophomore year. Suffice to say, every college is different, and for McMurtry, at least for my owls, my senior owl was offered a place every year. Part of it, as Michelle mentioned, was from earning Jack points. And every school is different, but you earn Jack points from volunteering, being active, being part of stuff, being on the CARES team. And it's a point system. And the more points you have, the better your opportunity is. And it makes sense, right? They want to invite students back that are actively showing up and doing all the stuff in the residential college. So, and of course, that's not the only measure. There are other things, but that works. So my senior owl was invited every year. He chose on his own his junior year to live off campus, even though he was offered a place, and he ended up at Life Tower. And like Amy said, it's close enough. You can get in and out. It wasn't as hard as I thought. I was really stressed about getting in early and all this stuff. Like it was fine. It worked out. And my sophomore owl was offered a place as well. So I think what we're encouraging you is don't stress out, have a backup plan, like, be ready. There are a couple of other ways to find spots. One way is by your owl coordinating early with other owls to go after a suite. So then you have a chance for a single and for a suite. And then if you don't get any of those and you don't have Jack points, then you're off campus, but try not to stress too much about it. Also senior owls, at least at McMurtry, I don't know about the other colleges. I'm sure this is probably true though. You have priority as a senior. They want you back on campus as a senior to experience the senior stuff. So, at most your owl may have to live off campus for 1 year. Maybe 2, but probably not, depending on how you work things out. And then I'll let David mention later another opportunity coming up with the addition of more colleges where, perhaps moving to another college like Chow is if your student is invited, might be an opportunity to also stay on campus.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Now is a good time to mention, obviously, Chow College, the university's 12th residential college, has recently been announced, and they're in the on-ramping portion for that college itself, and it will be habitated by second, third, and fourth year students next year, in additional to the incoming first year students. So if you're a member of the Parent to Parent Network Facebook page, there were some resources posted just earlier today about that process. It's definitely an exciting time to be a part of. One other quick question that we had on the topic of off-campus housing, and any of y'all can respond to this, but what do the costs look like in comparison to living on campus?
I'll start with that one. The Life Tower was $12.55 per month, which I guess is okay. It's close enough, right? Plus there was your portion of some kind of something, which was like another $13. And then they want you to do like their, insurance or whatever for $9 a month. You can just get a rider from your home. And if you have homeowners insurance, you don't need to do that. I didn't learn that till later, but it was $1,255 per month, but it was on the Rice route. And, he just walked to school actually too, but that was mine.
Yeah, the nest on Dryden, and I think all the other properties they own are kind of like 13 to 1400. It's pretty, I think, on the more expensive end, but it's super close to campus. And I mean, the accommodations are really nice. Like all the kids pretty much have their own bedroom and bathroom, and they have their own washer and dryer in the unit. It's very luxurious. It's like way nicer than what you probably experienced in college. So the only problem is there are some places like the Nest, you have to sign a 12-month lease. So your kid is going to have to figure out how to sublet. mine was able to sublet both summers, but I rode her like, cause I was like, I'm not paying for the summer. So she did, they figure out ways to find people to sublet. It's just a little bit stressful. I would say food wise, the costs are lower. So all in all, it actually costs less for her to live off campus than on campus, at least the last 2 years. So.
And I should add too, there's also parking, and by the way, Life Tower, that was for a double. So you do have a shared kitchen and dining, but you have your own bedroom and bathroom, but it is not as nice as the Nest.
Yeah.
So I was not a repeater, but I'm
Yeah.
glad we had the experience.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to an earlier question, we had talked about with kind of keeping in touch with your owl through the residential setting in circumstances where a relationship with like a roommate or roommate's parents, contact information, that can be a good thing to have, but that may not always be the case, just kind of based on what the relationship looks like with your student, their roommates, and family members. When that's not an option, have you guys had experience engaging with the RAs, college magisters, and other college leadership? And what does that look like from the parent perspective?
I'll start with that one. Yes. So first, I obviously, we're trying to build some independence for our kids. As I mentioned earlier, that's part of what we've actually sent them to school for, even though that's the hard part for us to admit. We've sent them there to learn how to adult. And so in my experience, I encouraged my owl to have a conversation with her magister, her coordinator, when she had something she needed to work through. In the end, I also had a relationship with the college coordinator because I'd been around for a lot of years. So I reached out to and I asked, and the college coordinator confirmed my initial concern, which was your owl has to handle it. So my role as a parent there was coaching my owl through who to have a conversation with, how to have it, and advising as she learned how to adult through this process. It's not unlike high school. It's not like a parent to teacher or administration process. It is your owl, but you now have moved into an advisor role with your owl, as you will probably for the rest of their life, advising them on things and how to handle situations, and then following up afterwards. So that was ours, and it worked out very well, and we had a lot of learnings from it, and they were all good.
My daughter only really has had 1 or 2 interactions, but when she got sick, like right after O week freshman year. And so, I was in Colorado at the time, so I couldn't come help or do anything. And so we contacted the magistrar, and he came and checked on her pretty much every day. He brought her salt so that she could do salt rinses for her throat. So like that was, so especially freshman year, like there's that possibility, but they're also kind of, what I'm learning at Duncan, I think they have new magisters there. They're also like for socializing, they're just kind of friends too. Like my daughter's organizing like a Rosh Hashanah party with the magisters at Duncan, which is kind of fun for her. And they're going to braid challah and do all sorts of stuff. So they can definitely troubleshoot, but they're also there to not to be your friend, but they do serve a social function too. I think I know that sometimes they host pancakes and parties and stuff like that. So yeah.
I don't have anything.
All right.
Sorry, David.
All good. All good.
I support what me and Stacy said.
Yes, absolutely. One of our earlier questions was actually, I believe, in response to something Amy said in her introduction about students finding like additional financial resources or job opportunities on campus. Can you all speak to what some of those might look like, and specifically where students can find those opportunities? Just kind of what resources are available for them to look into that.
I can start. The one that where we started was 1220, which is Rice's CCD, the Center for Career Development. And there's a bunch of stuff on there, and it's pretty broad though. So, but you can use the filters and bring it down to like, working at school, and you can find things that are like in Fondren, you can find fellowships, all sorts of things to apply for. In other cases, some of that stuff is listed elsewhere, like the referee position. I think Chouse was hiring recently. I think we have a in on this panel for a Chouse manager, right, Amy?
Mhm.
But whenever I see those on the page, that the pages, I post them, and you should look for them there too. They hopefully are also available on 1220. But 1220 is really like the one-stop shop for when you are in at Rice, and then also I think afterward, I think they have alumni support too, but you can filter it down to jobs right on campus. I'm not sure if that answered the question exactly. That one, other pages, I think things like Campanile, so the yearbook, I'm not sure, I haven't checked if that's on 1220, but you'll see posts in different places. But fellowships and other like university administrative support roles for student are on 1220.
Yeah, I think, Stacy, maybe I'm wrong, or someone can correct me, but I think the Career Development Office has, I don't know if it's a portal, or maybe you can sign up for emails where you can either look yourself for jobs, or you regularly get emails about what those jobs are. I'm sure it's all set out in the portal, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, in 1220, I think you can also set up alerts, but that's also where it'll give you research opportunities. I'll also add, one of the best ways to do that too is just like in real life, is your network, who you know. So a TA job, like we talked about, they can be paid or they can be for credit. You're going to earn that through the relationship you build with the professor. The same thing with certain other fellowships and things. I mean, just like in real life, sometimes things become available and you have a relationship and they want you there because they know you already. So that would be my recommendation.
Yep, agree.
I think because Rice, Rice is known as a STEM school. I think for that reason, I think Rice actually does a really good job of offering opportunities for non-STEM students, especially in the humanities. And so if you do have a student in the humanities or even in the social sciences, there's the Center for Civic Leadership. They do post some fellowship information, although most of theirs are for kids who are graduating and are looking to be like Fulbright scholars and that sort of thing. But my advice is, there's the Moody Fellowship, which is open, you have to apply to it, but there's a Moody Humanities Fellowship. Fondren Library has fellows as well that are pretty easy to get. And then just your student should just be looking at the individual department websites, because mine found, she got one fellowship from the English department for last summer to study in Europe, and then she got another fellowship from the French department, and like we didn't have to pay anything, it was completely covered. And so she got like $8,500 just through applying and submitting recommendations and stuff. So there are just a lot of opportunities. They just need to kind of find it, go on the websites, ask the Center for Civic Leadership, especially in the humanities. Like there's a lot, and I'm sure there's stuff in STEM too, but.
All right. Well, thank you for each sharing about that. We are going to get into our last question here. Thank you to all the parents who have sent in questions. As a reminder, if we didn't get to a question here today, you can always email us at parents@rice.edu, and we'll be sure to get you the correct resource there. But for our final question, I wanted to ask if each of you can share a moment or experience that made you feel particularly proud or reassured about your student's choice to attend Rice.
Goodness, that's a very broad question. I'll try my best to answer that, thinking all the scenarios in my head. But my student, as a computer science major, obviously we live in Arizona, he had the opportunity, I think it was freshman year, maybe spring breaks didn't align, but he came home and was actually able to attend a class of a computer science student who was attending a public university in Arizona, which I won't name specifically, and just sort of find out how they did things and what they were learning. And he said, wow, they're learning something we learned the first week of school. So it was so interesting to hear how I think the education he's getting at Rice is leaps and bounds above many other, in his case, computer science degrees that are offered at other universities. And so it was amazing to know how much he's learning, how much he has learned. And so that's at least one off the top of my head experience that I can think of about, how valuable the education he's getting at Rice. And it's tough. I mean, my kid's at the library every day for hours by choice because he wants to excel. But in any event.
For me, I don't think there's like a single moment. I think it's just a lot of different moments, and just that she gets excited about opportunities that she has. And there's just so many of them. She's the president of the Rice Philosophy Club, and she gets excited when she gets to, got $1,000 from the department to fund lunches a couple times a semester. So just all those little things and kind of the leadership experiences that you get. Like, I feel like even though everyone's like, what are you going to do with a philosophy degree? Like, I feel confident that she's learned so many things at school that are non-academic that she would be a great hire at like any nonprofit or management consulting firm. Like, they'd be lucky to have her. And so a lot of that is because of the experiences that she got out of the classroom, not just in the classroom. And I think that's what I think a big message is, like, don't feel like, oh, your student has to just study, only classes. Like, they're going to gain a lot from the other stuff that they're doing. So maybe I can say that because she's humanities. Maybe in like if you want to go to medical school, maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I have no basis of knowledge about that. So
I agree with Amy and Michelle. I don't know if there's a single moment, but there are a number of things that have just reinforced for me that we are in the right spot. And as we say on the parents page, there will be moments that are where there are hiccups and there are hurdles, and there will be some things that are imperfect or things that might even be disappointing for you. But by and large, and that's going to be with any university, anywhere you send your kid to. By and large, I'm reminded regularly that this is the right place for my family and my owls. I wrote down 3 quick examples when you were talking, like the joy my daughter had at even the opportunity to apply to be an O-Week advisor for many of your owls. Like, not even before she ended up getting it, but just the ability to be able to apply for an unpaid, hard job that was weeks of time and planning. Because she wanted the opportunity to get like represent and be part of it. That tells me that she's in a place that she loves and she's happy. She's a tour guide for new owls, and I feel like in those experiences, like she, she's so proud and happy to be there that she wants to be present in those ways, and that Rice wants her to be present in those ways. So it makes me feel like she's just in the right spot. And both of those are obviously out of the classroom experiences. Classroom experiences are amazing. They're great. But I hope you'll all find that as you go through this journey, and understand there will be some difficult things, but the benefits of where you're at in a Rice experience, Rice family experience, beyond measure is worth it.
All right. Well, thank you again so much, Stacy, Amy, and Michelle, for sharing your time and your experience with us here today. I think I can speak for all the parents in the room here today that it has been very valuable, and the wealth of knowledge that you bring is significant, and something that we're very grateful to you all for sharing. Thank you also to our attendees in the room for participating today. We would love to see you again at future events, whether that's on campus at an event such as Families Weekend, October 3rd and 4th, digital events like this webinar series, or events held regionally wherever the Rice family is found. As I mentioned at the top, this is the beginning of our webinar series. We're excited to be launching more, with another one coming later this fall, and some more planned for the spring. So in the future, we'll be able to bring specific departments and resources, information about those for your students to utilize. As a reminder, this recording will be made available on our website in the coming weeks. If there's anything else we can do for you, parents@rice.edu is the best place to find us. Thank you all again. Have a great rest of your day, and go Owls.